Hey, what's going on everybody? Commander Crane here, and we are back with another standard deck tech, and today we're going to be talking about budget mono red goblins. I'm very excited to bring this list to you. This is actually the first goblin deck we've ever featured on the channel, funny enough. We've been doing deck techs for years and have never had a goblin deck, so kind of a first time for everything. Let me know at the end of the video in the comment section, what do you think about the list? What upgrades would you do for a non-budget list, or is there a card that I didn't include in the deck that I definitely should have? Just let me know in the comment section. So, okay, I believe this is like the 5th budget standard deck that we've done recently on the channel. A lot of people are looking to get into standard just because, a lot of people's local game stores are starting to run a lot of standard, and if you're looking for a deck that's not crazy expensive to buy into, but you really want to play standard, and you like goblins or mono red, I think this would be the perfect deck for you. So let's go and hop into it here. So our 1-drops that we're playing 4 Cacophony Scamp, 4 Exuberant Fusling, and 4 Goblin Tomb Raider as our 1-drops. Cacophony Scamp is definitely very, very good in standard, because a lot of people are doing like some Monstrous Rage shenanigans with it. And honestly here, we're really just playing it as a fair goblin for the most part. Exuberant Fusling is actually the 1-drop I'm a little bit more excited about. Spoiler alert, we're playing a lot of like artifact destruction, like treasures and stuff, which work really, really well with Exuberant Fusling. So I think this card secretly is really, really good. It can definitely get very, very big. And Goblin Tomb Raider is also very good. As long as we have an artifact, it's a Goblin guy, 2/2 with haste, which is pretty sweet. So definitely a big fan of Goblin Tomb Raider. Next slide here, pretty much a lot of I would say the core of the deck. We're playing 4 Enterprising Scallywag, 2/2 for 2 at the beginning of your end step. If you descended this turn, create a treasure token, which means you descended if a permanent was put into your graveyard from anywhere. That counts obviously any treasure tokens that we make with the Scallywag. Any of our goblins die to removal, we make a treasure, that kind of thing. Definitely a big fan of Enterprising Scallywag. We're also playing 4 Runvelt Hordemaster. Yes, the card is in standard. A lot of people forget that. 1/1 for 2, other goblins get 1/1. When it or another goblin dies, exile the top card of your library. If it's a goblin, you can cast that card until the end of your next turn. Runvelt Hordemaster is a very, very good card. I love it. It's part of the cycle from Dominaria United, like they did it with Vodalian Hexcatcher and such, but really not a lot of those see play in standard, and they're still very, very strong. So obviously we have to play 4 copies of that. And then we're also playing 3 copies of Squee Dubious Monarch. It's perfect for the deck. It's basically a Rabble Master. When it attacks, makes another red 1/1 attacking goblin. And we can just go ahead and rebuy it from our graveyard, which is pretty sweet. So definitely a big fan of Squee in general. It's definitely very, very good in our deck. So our next slide here is pretty much our artifact package that we're playing. And obviously, we're playing Gleeful Demolition. It makes Phyrexian Goblins, so we have to play it. We're playing a full 4 copies of that. Then we're playing 4 Experimental Synthesizer. It works really, really well with Gleeful Demolition. Definitely a big fan of the card in general. Helps turn on our Goblin Tomb Raider to give it haste. Also triggers with the Fusling, where if we destroy one of our artifacts, it gets a counter, which is pretty sweet. Then we're also playing 2 Dire Flail. I wanted another artifact in the deck, and I kind of was looking at a couple different ones, and I kind of decided that Dire Flail was pretty sweet. 1 red gives a creature +2/+0 with equip 1. We're not going to be crafting it a lot. It can turn into, it turns into Dire Blunderbuss, We're not going to be crafting this very often, but it's something to keep in mind, if we do happen to do it. It's really just another artifact for the most part that we can point our Gleeful Demolition at, or give our Goblin Tomb Raider a little bit of a buff for the most part. So, and then our last slide that we're playing here, we're playing 4 Krenko Baron of Tin Street, the new card from Murders at Karlov Manor. 3/3 for 3 with haste. Tap, sacrifice an artifact, put a 1/1 counter on each goblin you control. And then whenever an artifact is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you may pay a red. If you do, make a 1/1 red goblin creature token. It gets haste until end of turn. Something to keep in mind, if we sacrifice an artifact by tapping Krenko, and we pay the red, the 1/1 goblin comes into play before the 1/1 counters go on all of our goblins. So just keep that in mind. The goblin will essentially get a 1/1 counter, which is pretty sweet. So definitely a big fan of Krenko. I think it's one of the better cards in our entire deck. Then we're also playing 2 copies of Witchstalker Frenzy as our only removal spells. We have a lot of removal in the sideboard that kind of, more matches the matchup, depending on what the matchup is. But Witchstalker Frenzy is just really, really good. We go really, really wide, so that way we're able to play this for essentially 1 mana to be able to kill something. It's definitely a very solid removal spell in the deck. So that's our entire main board, except for our lands, which are really, really simple. We're playing 4 Scene of the Crime and 17 Mountains. Reason that we're playing Scene of the Crime, it works with Goblin Tomb Raider. You know, the Gleeful Demolition, if we're in a weird pinch, we can also sacrifice it to Krenko. That's why we're playing for Scene of the Crime. It's just an artifact land, really, enough said. That's pretty much why we're playing it. And then we're obviously playing 17 Mountains. And as the spicy basic land of the day, this is actually the Goblin Jumpstart Mountain. For those who are longtime viewers of the channel, I love the Jumpstart basic lands, and this one is definitely no exception. Definitely a big fan of the artwork, and it's very on flavor. You know, it was meant for goblins, which is pretty sweet. So that's our entire main board, but don't go anywhere. We still have to talk about our sideboard as well as some budget options. Sideboarding is really, really simple. We're going to want a little bit more artifact hate. Abrade is perfect in the sideboard for that. We could also bring it in against regular removal spell, which kind of, you know, slots into the whole extra removal. We're playing the Abrades. We're playing the other two copies of Witchstalker Frenzy. We're also playing Lethal Mantic Barrage. It's also really good against the white or blue decks, really of any magnitude for the most part in the deck. And then Furnace Rains is really good out of the sideboard as well. You know, if our opponent's playing like a Traxa, we can just go ahead and act. It's basically active treason that gives us a treasure. So, you know, active treason your Traxa, boom, get in there. If our opponent's playing like a Tali or any big, and really any big creature for the most part, we can steal it for a turn and most likely kill him on the crackback, which is pretty sweet. And our upgrade options, which I'm not going to lie to you, is really, really simple. If you're looking to just play mono red goblins, really the only cards you would need is Sekenzan and Cavern of Souls as just like some good utility lands to play in the deck. You could also go to Rakdos Goblins. There's kind of like you could do like a Rakdos Anvil Sacrifice kind of deck, you know. There's a couple of good black goblins, like there's Stalactite Stalker, and there's also, I can never pronounce it, Zawaria or whatever it is. If I looked at the name, I could definitely tell you what it is, but it's the 2/2 for black and a red that was from Lost Caverns of Ixalan. If you're looking to, you know, splash a little bit for black, get some better removal, that kind of thing. And then the main thing I wanted to mention is the list as it is right now. It's only $50 to build, so it's just $50. You have an entire mono red goblins list, which is definitely very sweet for standard. You can play it at your local FNM, that kind of thing, just so you can kind of get involved in standard. You know, a lot of people love playing goblins of the past, you know, whether or not it be Commander or Modern or Pioneer or even standard of the past. And this deck is definitely no exception to that. This deck is definitely very, very cool if you're looking for a fun aggro deck to play in the format. So that takes us to the end of the video. Let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about the list? Is there any cards that you would change? Just let me know in the comment section. So I'm Commander Crane. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.